I 40 mem found out 5 years ago that my wife, 39F, of 14 years cheated on me. What to do next? The first story. About 5 years ago, my wife worked and studied from home while I worked long hours outside and tried to spend time with our 7-year-old kid. Through an online study group, my wife met a woman friend with whom she quickly became close. She likes to talk to people, but she didn't have many chances to do so at that time. I did my best to stay out of the way so she could talk to her new friend. Since they lived in different time zones, we often talked late at night or early in the morning. I thought she needed some girl talk. My wife told me a lot about her friend and set up a few times for me to talk to her. That thing I think it was about was some kind of life hack. My wife told me she'd like to meet her friend in person and take a week off to see the city about a year into their friendship. I didn't say anything, and we worked out a week when I could get off work early to pick up our son from school. She asked me not to call. She said she would text or call me, but she didn't want the woman to feel like she was always checking in on them since she was single. I thought that was fine. She took the trip as planned and came back feeling refreshed and energized. The race got harder after that, and they didn't have time to keep up. After about 3 years, I was working on the computer my wife gave me. I was asked to check something like a letter. I got a short email from the same friend, and I read the first few lines. Something like this: "I'll always remember the times we spent together. Pat loves you." My first thought was that the person might have changed times since they met and just kept the name Pat, which is Uni's time. Sometimes it's hard to believe how dumb I am. We both worked long hours and our active kid was around most of the time, so I didn't ask my wife about the email. For 18 months I had heard about the same woman almost every day, so I was interested in who she was. The next time my wife asked me to do something on her computer, I looked up the person's name in her Outlook. I cried for the first time, which is not something I'm proud of. Also, I think it would have been better for me to live in peaceful ignorance. I did find their letters, though. They were saved in an offline folder. There were emails and emails with copies of chats, but no pictures or files. I began opening them without planning to. She quickly learned that her friend was a straight man a few years older than her and not very outgoing. It was mostly her idea to start the affair. I didn't care to read most of the emails and chats because they were full of sapphic talk, fantasies, and promises of eternal love. But a few of them talked about me, which made me feel a little better about reading those. If my wife had met him instead of me, they would have had kids together. She also told him that they could live together one day. She told him that we were no longer together, but that we lived close, so that we could take turns taking care of our kid. She married me because I was a good person and loved her, not because I loved her. He was the third person she had loved before him. The first two were other people, but not me. It all read like she was making up a weird dream world. She has always told me she loves me, even back then, and it sounded real. You're so lucky to have someone who loves you so much and has never suggested that you two break up even when we've had the worst fights. Even after reading this, I'm still not sure if she was being honest or just trying to keep his attention. I think I could forget most of this and move on. But the last email I read made me angry, and I can't forgive her for it. She told him a few months before their trip that she was going to the doctor to get the pill so they wouldn't have to use condoms. He told her he would bring some in another email, so I don't know if she did or not. But the fact that she could even bring it up is very upsetting to me. She has made us use condoms as birth control ever since we met. I don't like them very much, but not having them means almost no sapphic time. She always says, "Why should contraception be a woman's responsibility?" When I try to talk about other choices, I should also say that she took the pill for a few years before we met. I think it didn't work out for her. She told me once that in 10 years none of her ex-boyfriends had ever used a condom, but that's her past, not mine. In spite of the fact that I was married to her and taking my role as husband very seriously, I thought it was okay to suggest that she spend time with someone she had only talked to on the internet and never met. Now, about a year ago, we got into a fight because I woke up a coworker and brought her home from a late-night work party without telling her. Following his departure, she accused me of being selfish and careless. She was very angry and sickened with me until I finally lost it and told her I had known her friend's gender since seeing the email, telling the truth without adding anything else. It definitely put an end to the fight. She told me she was sorry and that she had lied to keep me from getting hurt. It was a hard time in her life, but it's over now, and I was such a good husband for staying with her even though she was crazy. We should move on and forget that she loved me. I still have doubts, though. Why did she offer to have protected sapphic time with a guy she had never met? She still makes her 14-year-old husband use protection. It should be the other way around, right? Why did she say she didn't love me? Was it just to keep him interested? If so, why didn't she just say that we became less close? Why did she have to say she had loved many people before me and say she had never loved me? I'm not sure if I should talk to her about this again. It happened 5 years ago, and I'm pretty sure she's been loyal ever since. Still love her. She tells me she loves me a lot, and we spend time together at least once a month. With a child in the middle, I don't want to start a fight that could end the marriage. I'm also ready to tell her that I read her emails, which is something I have to do, but I don't want her to think it's not just a one-time thing. What do people on Reddit think? Is it better to let dogs sleep or wake them up and hope for the best? TLDR. 5 years ago, my wife had an affair on the internet. She told me it was with a girlfriend, and they went on vacation together. Later, I found texts that showed the friend was seeing a man. She had asked for unprotected sapphic time and told him she had never loved me. What should I do? Second story. I'm 24 years old, M, and have been dating my girlfriend, 22F, for just over 3 years. We don't live together because we were both living with our parents while we were in college. But I just finished and now I live alone with a roommate. Sometime we've talked about moving in together, but she still lives with her mom. I have a full-time job in an office, and she goes to school and works part-time in a diner. Someone she knows hired her for this job at the beginning of November. She told me it was annoying that some of the male employees kept flirting with her and making inappropriate jokes about her, even though she was in a relationship. This includes the bartender at the diner, 31M. The staff had their usual Christmas party at the restaurant in late November, just a few weeks after she came on board. As of Tuesday morning, the diner is closed, so it was Monday night. Later that week, my girlfriend was also meant to watch a friend's house and dog. As of Tuesday, she could stay the night if she wanted, but she had to feed the dog every day. When we talked, we both agreed that having sex in someone else's house was hot and that we planned to have some wild nights when we could. From my point of view, I skipped the party and stayed home instead. The event was only for staff, so no significant others. I had to be at work in the morning, so I didn't mind sticking in. While I was out, I dropped off my girlfriend and texted her all night. Around 11 o'clock, I told her goodnight and went to sleep. I was still up for another hour or so, but her text message made it sound like she was really drunk, and it was annoying to talk to her again, so I stopped texting her. I texted her first thing in the morning but didn't hear back until around 2 p.m. when she told me she was so drunk she slept for half the day. She said she went to the dog-sitting house a day early even though her mom's house was right around the corner from the restaurant. This was because it was on the way to the bar that some people went to after the party. It looks like the homeowners left on Monday night early. That night, we hung out and she showed me pictures from the party. It made me feel bad that most of the people there were with their significant others. She told me I shouldn't have cared because I had to work the next day and that she didn't think we were meant to be invited. We had a small argument, but nothing major. The next few days went as planned, and we were content. I told you that Thursday night we should go to the dog-sitting house together. She changed her mind and said she didn't want to do that anymore. Instead, she said she would rather hang out at my house. We did that, watched TV, and I tried to start sapphic time. She said no, I was being too pushy, and she left. I felt bad because I didn't believe I did anything wrong. For the next 2 weeks or so, things stayed the same. There was no sapphic time, which made people angry and caused silly fights over small things. She began taking tests in the middle to late of December, and she was under a lot of stress. Finally, when her tests were over, we went to a party, came home together, and had a great time. It had been about 3 weeks, and we used to have sapphic time 5 times a week. We spent a lot of time together again over the Christmas break, but something still didn't feel right. There were many fights. We both went back to work or school, and it seemed like we had a new fight every day. We got into a fight today over something silly, whether her friend calling me Garfield was rude or not. I said something out of the blue about how these little fights shouldn't bother me so much to try to end the argument. She didn't cheat on me and then break up with me. She broke down in tears and admitted that she had sinned terribly at the Christmas party. She told me she was going to kill herself because she couldn't stand to tell me. From her point of view, I made her tell me what happened after she quit crying. I was yelling and getting angry because she told me she cheated on me about a month and a half ago and tried to hide it. That's her side. Since she doesn't remember much about the night, she put together a lot of it from her texts and what her coworkers told her. The party had an open bar, and she and her friends spent most of the night at a bar. Another worker had offered to work the night instead of drinking so they could help everyone else. He started giving her drinks she wasn't even asking for in the middle of the night. She was having fun, so she let them in. She finally passed out from being so drunk, and it was still pretty early that night. At around 11 p.m., I texted her, "Good night," but she doesn't remember it. At midnight, she texted the dog sitters to ask if she could stay the night. Of course, they didn't answer because they were on a plane somewhere in another country. A lot of people kept drinking until around 12:30 a.m. Someone from the party drove a group of people to a bar around 1 a.m. He went back to the party to take the last group of people to the bar in the last car. Everyone else was on their way. He had already dropped off everyone at the bar except my girlfriend and was now home. They thought he was going to drive her home, but he and she went back to the dog-sitting house together. It was around 3 a.m. when she sent a picture to their work group chat. I'm not sure what else happened. There is a bed with her, the waiter, and the dog in it. You could only see their shoulders, but it was clear that they didn't have any shirts on. "I hope everyone is having a good time," she wrote in the note. "I am sure we are." She claims that she has no memory of this happening. When she woke up on Tuesday at noon, she was shocked to find herself somewhere else. He wasn't there when she got up and she couldn't find him anywhere. Because she thought she might have chosen to go to the bar after, she asked to stay at the dog-sitting house instead of her own. It looks like she didn't find out what happened until she talked to her friend on Thursday. The picture she had sent was shown to her, but it had been hidden in the group chat. She still says she doesn't remember anything and was scared and didn't know what to do. That's why she wouldn't go with me to that house and why things between us became so strange all of a sudden. She says she didn't want to tell me because she wanted to tell herself that it didn't happen. Since I found out the truth today, there has been a lot of crying and yelling, and I'm now at home by myself. What I think. In the first place, I do think she was ripped off. She was so drunk that she couldn't see straight, but the waiter was sober and a lot older. Everyone at work agreed that the bartender told everyone he was going to drop her off at home and give her free drinks all night. It seems likely that she didn't remember it at first because her mood changed on Thursday, which is when she said she found out. I think she was willing, though, even if she was drunk. This hurts me, and I feel like I was lied to. The bartender didn't really take her home against her will and beat her up. She figured out how to get to a place where they could go together, and the picture of her makes her look very happy. It still feels like cheating because I wasn't asked to the party where everyone else brought their SOs. The dog-sitting house was open to her a day earlier than I thought. Even though it was right next to her mom's house, she brought the key to the dog-sitting house to her work party. The guy who works at the bar has been flirting with her for weeks. For more than a month, she kept what happened from me and planned to keep it a secret forever. I yelled at her that if this wasn't stealing, then someone must have sex with her. It's also important that if we don't press charges, the server should at least lose his job. Again, she cried, and said she wouldn't do either because she couldn't remember the night. She doesn't want to report him for anything and isn't sure of what she didn't want. What do you think? Right now, I'm a mess of emotions and can't think straight. Should I put my feelings aside and back her as a victim, or is she cheating? Before this, everything was great, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this girl. Change 1. I talked to her again today and told her that it looks like she planned this because of how many similarities there were. That's why I told her I needed some time to think about it. I didn't think I could get past it. If you're in a mess like this, you can't think straight. I know that dragging this out is probably not the best way to handle anything. We should still talk about a few changes, though. We took another look at the picture, and it looks like the bartender took it. After I said goodnight, she only sent 2 texts that made sense, one to the homeowners and one in the group chat with a picture. There were also some other texts she sent to a friend outside of work that were not related to work. That morning, she showed me a message from her friend that said the party was only for staff. She said she had only talked to the bartender through the work group chat and never sent her a message. He sent her Facebook and Snapchat chat invites that she didn't accept, and she said she didn't even have his phone number. She agreed to let me use a recovery tool to show that they had never texted, but I didn't do it. The key was on her keychain because she got it from the landlords about a week ahead of time. She is so sure of this that she looked at pictures she took of her odometer reaching 100,000 miles to see if her keys could be seen, but there was no proof. She said she was ready to report the bartender to work for abuse, but she still wasn't sure if she should. But she did it anyway and told me nothing about it, so I'm not sure if I can get over it, even if her story is true. Important news number 2. My girlfriend and I have decided that I will stand by her while we figure this out. I'm not going to act like everything is okay, and I may or may not be able to help us get through this. Even though I think we won't, I believe her about what happened because we've been together for 3 years. Even though she didn't handle things right that night, I think she is a victim. I'll be there for her and try to find out the whole story. Every comment in this thread has been read. I was replying to a lot of people with information in these updates, but there are now way too many to answer. A lot of the top comments were made early and tell me to break up right away. Based on what you read, it sounds like they have a 50-50 split on whether she set it all up or was attacked. If you think she should break up with me because of how I've managed this so far, please try to understand how hard this has been for both of us. She came to me and said she was sorry for what she did. She kept it from me for more than a month. I got scared when I learned all of this yesterday. What Redditors said, it's not either or. You could give her the benefit of the doubt and think that the bartender cheated on her, but you could also decide that her actions and choices before and after the event have made it hard for you to stay together. You two are still young, so you should think about all of your choices without feeling like you have to stay with someone. You should know that she lied to you about it being a work event, and there were other SOs there. There would be a guy at the event who had been making out with her for a while. She told you lies about when she would be at the house. She brought the key to the house so she could go there that night without you. She did all of this before she drank a drink. A lot of people don't tell anyone after being sexually assaulted. It doesn't happen that people plan to tell a bunch of lies ahead of time to get the victim to sexually assault someone. Something did happen that she wanted to happen. It could have been because she was so drunk that she didn't know what was going on, but if I were you, I'd think she put herself in that situation on purpose. She knew how to cheat, wanted to cheat, and made it possible for herself to cheat. And I don't understand how she could be so drunk that she couldn't see straight. Yet she took a naked selfie with this guy, sent it to her coworkers, and wrote that they were having a great time. I guess that means you broke up months ago. Do what's right.